Hello and welcome to another session on Indian writing in English. We continue with Nagmandala. But before we start today's class, let me tell you a little bit about Indian theatre and the Western theatre. Now this is Karnad's own words, okay. So, and we have to remember this because Karnad keeps this in mind, works with this philosophy, especially in Nagmandala. So Western theatre has developed a contrast between the face and the mask. The real inner person, that is the real inner person, and the exterior one presents or wishes to present to the outer or to the world outside. To the world outside. Western theatre has developed a contrast between the face and the mask. That is the real inner person, contrast between the real inner person and the exterior one, the mask. One presents to or presents or wishes to present to the world outside. Okay, but in traditional Indian theatre, the mask is the only face writ large. Since the character represents not a complex psychological entity but an ethical archetype, the mask merely presents in enlarged detail its essential moral nature. This theory is put into practice in Nagmandala. Karnad says that the Western mask or the Western makes a distinction between the mask and inner psyche. That is, Western theatre has developed a contrast between the face and the mask. So the Western theatre makes a distinction between the mask and the inner psyche. So which is the inner psyche here? That is the face, that is the real person, the real inner person, the inner psyche. And the mask is the exterior, the one that presents to the world, the one that wishes to present to the world what we are not actually, in fact, in reality. So Western theatre shows a distinction, clearly shows a distinction between the mask and the inner psyche. But in Indian theatre, it is different. In Indian theatre, what shows is what it is. Whatever is shown is what is in the mind. We are not hiding anything. We are just exaggerating the inner psyche in great detail in the mask. Okay, so each person in the theatre, according to Karnad, represents a particular type or a characteristic. That means Rani is the mask and the inner psyche, both. Okay, the mask and the face. There's no distinction. It stands for all women, all Indian women, all Indian women. Aparna for all Indian male, if we put this theory into practice, that is. Okay, we have to bear this in mind because Karnad actually works with this philosophy, and that is why you see the see how the theatre is performed in Karnad. Okay, so in Indian theatre there is no distinction between the mask and the inner psyche. Both are, we are not hiding anything. Okay, we are presenting both. That is, the inner psyche is presented in great detail in the mask, that is. Okay, there is no distinction. Whereas in Western theatre, it makes a distinction between the mask and the inner psyche. The mask is the we present it to the world, the exterior, and the inner psyche is the mind, the face, the real. Okay. All right. Now we shall move on with the play. Okay, so let's start. She falls asleep. Midnight. Kapanna enters carrying Kurudava, stumbles on a stone. They fall. Kurudava. Phew, that's the problem with having eyes. One can't see in the dark. That's why I have been telling you to let me go out on my own at least at night. Kapanna, go. From this point on, you can certainly go on alone. I refuse to come any closer to that house. And what are you doing, mother? Suppose he is in the house and he hears you. What will you say? That you have come to gossip with his wife in the dead of night? Gurudeva, shut up. We are here only to find out if the lock is gone yet. If it's gone, he is inside now. That means success is ours. We'll leave right away. Goes and touches the door. It is closed. Tiptoes to feel the latch. The lock is still there. Recoils in surprise. I can't believe it. The lock is still there. Thinks. Perhaps he has taken her out to the fields or the garden. Laughs. Rani wakes up. Who is that? Gurudeva. Me. Rani comes running. Who? Gurudeva? This time of the night? Gurudeva. What happened, child? Why is the lock still there? There's no reply. Did you feed him the root? Rani. Yes. Gurudeva. And what happened? Rani. Nothing. He felt giddy, fainted, then got up and left. Gurudeva. That's bad. This is no ordinary infatuation then. That concubine of his is obviously... Rani. Who? Gurudeva. Didn't want to tell you. There is a woman, a bazaar woman. She has your husband in her clutches, squeezes him dry. Maybe she has cast a spell. There is only one solution to this. Rani. What? Now, so Rani, what does she do? She acts as per Gurudeva's advice. And what does she do? She mixes the paste in a hot cup of milk and serves Appanna. Appanna says he wants to leave after having milk and he goes to have bath. While having his bath, Rani mixes it and serves him. Appanna drinks it in one gulp and he proceeds towards the door. What happens is he feels giddy and he falls down near the front door post. He falls deep asleep. Rani does not know what to do. She shakes him up, but he does not get up. She tries to drag him into the house, but she is too slender to do that. She then brings a pot of water and splashes it on his face. He wakes up slowly and gets steadied and leaves home after locking Rani in. She goes to the bedroom and she cries. So that's what happened, right? And she tells Gurudeva all her emotions are told to Gurudeva that all these things had happened. Okay, and you find Rani locked up by her heartless husband who stifles her tender emotions and feelings by arrogance and self-centeredness. Another thing that you have to remember is all these talks between Gurudeva and Rani are happening behind, or it is happening between or through the bars, you can say. So Rani is speaking through the window, and that is a barred window, and Gurudeva is on the other side or outside of the window, and Rani is inside the house. So they are speaking through the bars of this window. We may not visualize it while reading, but a close reading will give us will send images to our mind. So Gurudeva has her own story to tell, which we discussed earlier, and the roots, the mendicant, her marriage, and so on. And so the pieces of root that is left or is given to all these talks are happening, or the talks that happened earlier happened again through the bars, and the talks that is happening right now also is happening through the bars only. So there is what is happening here is there is physically they are separate. Physically they don't even have, they are restricted in one way or the other. Okay, they are they cannot even converse like normal human beings. Okay, even that very basic instinct of man to communicate with other beings is being refused to Rani. Okay, so that's one thing that you have to bear in mind. All the talks between Kurdava and Rani are happening behind, or are happening through this window bars. Okay, so she tells, Kurdava is all, in fact she is happy, and she tells Kappanna when he stumbles on the rock, and when they fall, Kurdava is scolding Kappanna, because even though he has sight, he is not able to see through the dark, and Kurdava being born blind, she knows exactly what to do in a situation like that. Anyway, Kappanna tells her very clearly that whatever you say, I'm not going to come further. You are not supposed to do this, mother. You are intervening into another person's life. Okay, and what if Appanna is still there? And Kurdava is excitedly says, see, if he is still there, if the lock is not there, that means Appanna is inside, and that is happy news, because then the root has worked, and he is in love with his wife. He will take good care of her. He will stop going to that concubine, and he will be her slave forever. But if the lock is there, then it's a problem. So they say Kurdava promises to leave immediately if the lock is not there, and she finds that the lock is still there. And when she finds that the lock is still there, she is stunned. She's shocked and stunned, and wonders if it has not worked. And then for a moment she thinks, no, that the root is so powerful that it will work. When she then thinks that he must have taken her outside, taken her out and locked the door, and may have gone out. She thinks in that way. Okay, no, it may not be, the root is powerful, that he would definitely fall for her, and he must have taken out for a romantic taken her for a romantic night out. She laughs, and that laughter again has an erotic feel there. That shows that the consummation of a marriage. So she thinks in that terms, and but when she goes there, when she finds Rani inside, when Rani says, "Who, Kurdava?" She is shocked, and Kurdava quizzes Rani as to what happened, and Rani tells her, what happened? Kurdava, what happened? Rani, nothing. He felt giddy, fainted, then got up and left. Kurdava, that's bad. This is no ordinary infatuation then. That concubine of his is obviously, see, this part is very interesting. So the response that Kurdava has for this failure, that is the root having a failed, the failed attempt, she gives the response to it by Kurdava is very interesting. So what she says is, this concubine, this prostitute, has definitely cast a spell on Appanna. So Rani asks, who? Kurdava, didn't want to tell you. There is a woman, a bazaar woman, who she has your husband in her clutches, squeezes him dry. Maybe she has cast a spell. There is only one solution to this. So the spell laid by the concubine is more powerful than this small piece of root that Kurdava offers. So there is a battle between several kinds of potions and roots and spells here. Different kinds of magic are at work. Okay, so again you find that Indian scenario, right? So she realizes Appanna's infatuation for the concubine is very powerful and resorts to getting or requiring a better antidote. So Kurudava gives her the larger piece of root and says, "Feed him," Kurudava, giving her the bigger piece. "Feed him this largest piece." Rani, "No." Kurudava, "Yes." Rani, that little piece made him sick. This one? Kurudava, "It will do good. Believe me. This is not a hearsay. I am telling you from my own experience. Go in, start grinding it. Make a tasty curry. Mix the paste in. Let him taste a spoonful and he will be your slave. And then just say the word and he will carry you to my house himself." Look at that word, my house, himself. Now here, in terms of feminine identity, we have two extremes in this play. One is the kind of feminine identity projected by Rani, young, inviting, that is physically beautiful, young, inviting one. And the only problem here is the husband is unable to appreciate it. That this sexually attractive, inviting identity becomes one kind of identity that we have, one feminine identity. On the other hand, we have the older woman, women in their old age, sickly. Remember the anecdote of the flames, the old ailing mother in the prologue? Yes, so we have a reference to such women, very sickly, who demand attention, demand to be taken care of. And there is this other older woman again, who doesn't tell stories, somehow rebelling to pass on this kind of things, this kind of construct, as women being subjugated, as women being, always having to be the victim. These all tales are based on that. No, all these tales, the folk tales, all the tales that we hear of are about women as of being attractive, either attractive or the purpose of women itself is to serve the husband. That is being refused, or the old woman is actually rebelling to say this. So in a way, this old woman becomes an interesting character to us. She's trying to stop, or she herself is rebelling against this kind of evil of the patriarchy, right? So therefore we have this figures such as Kurudava. Yes, so here are again such women trying to again bring in this idea of women and sexuality. So there are two feminine identity. One is the young, inviting, attractive women like Rani, like the wife that was mentioned in the anecdote of the flames. And then on the other hand, we have sickly mothers who demand attention, who demand to be taken care of. And then we have other type of older women who try to rebel against these kind of attitude, patriarchal attitude. And you have people like Kurudava, who again tries to reinforce this thing of sexuality. All this is what is offered by Karnad in Nagmandala. And Rani is encouraged by Kurudava not to be frightened, and she tries to do what has been advised. Rani tries to do what has been advised by Kurudava. So when Kurudava says that he will just say the word and he will carry you to my house, again mix the paste, let him taste a spoonful and he will be your slave, and then just the word and he will carry you around, not just around, he will even carry you to my house himself, and all that When she hears that, she blushes. Rani blushes. She goes, therefore she decides to go upon Kurdava's advice, and she goes into the kitchen, and Kurdava wakes her son Kapanna, and they leave. Okay, soon it becomes brighter with the day breaking out. Alright, and Kurdava goes. Before this, Kurdava and Kapanna is sleeping, so Kurdava and Kapanna, they leave. Before leaving, Kurdava tells her not to worry about anything and to do as advised by Kurdava. Okay, so Rani goes into the kitchen. Kurdava wakes up Kapanna. They exit. It gets brighter. Aparna comes. He has a vicious looking dog on a chain with him. He brings it to the front yard and ties it to a tree stump there. Then comes to the front door and unlocks it. The dog begins to bark. Surprised at the bark, Rani peers out of the window. Rani, oh, a dog. Aparna, that blind woman and her son. Let them step in here again, they'll know. I'll bathe and come to eat. Serve my food. Goes to the bathroom and starts bathing. Rani takes down her pot of curry, removes the lid, takes out the paste of the root. Rani, to the story. Now look at that. Rani to the story. Now who's the story? The story in the sari. The story and the sari becoming one feminine character here. So story, the Rani is talking to the story. So you remember story and the playwright is already there. Not the playwright, the Sutradhar is already there on stage. They don't leave. Okay, they are still on stage while this is being enacted. So Rani goes to story and asks her for advice. So Rani says, shall I pour it in? Story, yes. Rani prays silently to the gods and pours the paste into the curry. There is a sudden explosion. She runs and hides in a corner of the room. The curry boils over, red as blood. Steam, pink and dangerous, coils out of the pot. Rani shuts her eyes in fear. Aparna calmly continues his bath. It is evident that he has heard nothing. So, look at the direction that comes from outside of the story. Yeah. So Rani, she, Aparna, he comes home. Then he comes to or he knows, he comes to know from somewhere of the presence of Kurdava and her son. So he has brought a fierce looking watchdog with him. He ties it to the stump of a tree and then unlocks the front door. Rani looks out of the window and sees this dog. Aparna grumples that the blind woman and her son would learn a bitter lesson if they step into his doors again. And he orders Rani to serve him food, and he goes to have his bath, right? And Aparna is often said to be taking bath. Look at that one. Aparna is often said to be taking bath. Now this is metaphorical. Why is it metaphorical? He's trying to cleanse himself, perhaps. Without much success, however, it could mean that his behavior, which perhaps he's trying to change, is of no use. He gets all the more dirtier, his mind. So he's metaphorically he's trying to cleanse himself, but it is of no avail. It is of less success. Then Rani, she fixes dinner. Now here, now we have a very interesting part. She asks the story if she should pour in the grinded paste. It's very interesting to note that Rani asks the story. So we have this meta-theatrical moment here. Rani asks the story, shall I pour it in? So what does it signify? It signifies the power of the story to direct, to control the lives and actions of its members, of its actors. Story is like Shakespeare's Prospero in Tempest. who controls the lives of those in the ship. So Aparna calmly continues his path, and it is so evident that he has heard nothing. The pot boiling and when she pours the curry boiling and explosion and all that, Aparna has not heard of it. Okay, and again she gets really horrified. Rani is horrified at this. "Oh my God," Rani says, "oh my God, what horrible mess is this? Blood, perhaps poison. Shall I serve him this? That woman is blind, but he isn't. How could he possibly not see this boiling blood, this poisonous red? And then, even if he doesn't see it, how do I know it is not dangerous? Supposing something happens to my husband, what will my fate be? That little piece made him ill. Who knows?" Slaps herself on her cheeks. No, forgive me, God. This is evil. I was about to commit a crime. Father, mother, how could I, your daughter, agree to such a heinous act? Now I must get rid of this before he notices anything. She brings the pot out, avoids the husband in the bathroom, steps out of the house, starts pouring out the curry. Stops. No, how awful. It's leaving a red stain. He's bound to notice it. Right here on the doorstep. What shall I do? Where can I pour it so he won't see? Story. Rani, put it in that ant hill. So the story again intervenes. Look at the direction that comes from outside of the story that is told. Outside of the story means the story is directing. The story is directing the story. Alright? The personified story is directing the story. It makes the story therefore very, very lively, like a real person. The personified story becomes a real person, right? And again, what does it suggest? That's very important. It suggests that this is happening right now. See, this is a folk tale. So folk tales are things that happened in the past, story of the past. So till now, story was telling something, the story of Rani of the past. But right now, when story intervenes and then acts and directs the actors, there is life here, there is presence here, it is happening now. It's not a myth, not a folk tale, not a grandmother tale, it's live action. Right now, happening on the stage. So that kind of time where there is both the present and the past, it makes it very real in terms of its ideology, which Karnad is trying to lay bare before the audience. So Karnad himself tells how problematic the gender dimensions are. For instance, when he says, inevitably, the pattern of relationship she is forced to weave from these disjointed encounters must be something of a fiction. The empty house is locked in could be the family she is married to. So, through the story intervening, we get to understand that there is much more to it than a folk tale. There is much more to it than a myth, than a tale that is told in the past. It is happening at present. It shows the Indian women now also. It happened in the past. It is happening now as well. So what does it mean? What is that? What does it signify, or what does Rani's locked up room and Rani's helplessness signify? Again, a folk tale that is told by story, but which is happening, or which changes its direction to show the audience that it is happening now. What does it mean? It means that family or her in-laws place, any woman's in-laws place, the institution of the family becomes a prison. then the kind of relationship that Rani has, we will be seeing very soon, that Rani has with both Appanna and Naga is something of a fiction, because all these encounters are disjointed encounters. There is no coherent linear meaning to do these encounters. If it's Appanna of the daylight hours, it's about food. If it's Naga of the night time, it's about sex. So food and sex, the very basic function, are being required of Rani. And he says that these encounters are almost fictional. They don't make sense for the woman who is at the center of this. There is no, this is one idea that he is trying to lay before the audience. Appanna is the same person, the Naga. Of course, as we move on from the tale, there are multiple interpretations. Right now, Appanna, in one section or one aspect of this, is that Appanna is both Naga and the husband. So here the story intervening to tell you something shows that it is more than a folk tale, more than a tale where you can sit back and relax. It's telling you something about the two different aspects of man, the two nature of man, the double nature of man. Appanna at night is a romantic lover. During the day, he's a demanding husband. So Rani is any Indian woman, and her basic function during the day is to serve her husband good food and take care of him. And at night, her duty is to lay herself before him so that he could enjoy himself. So a woman is nothing more than a slave to the man, an object to the man. So Karnad uses this to show the two different aspects of man in a family, or in the Indian society, or even in the world in which patriarchy thrives. Daytime, he's a stranger; at night, he's a lover. So the central theme from the locked room shows women treated as a prisoner. And the two aspect of man shows how he looks at women as an object that serves him selflessly, unconditionally. Now I also want you to ask yourself this question: how far is Rani rebelling against his patriarchal structures? What are her moments of rebellion? If the story happens in the past, if it is a folklore, if it is happening in the past in Rani's life, in Kurudava's life, and at the same time if it is happening in life right now, any Ranis, any Kurudavas, and that shows, that is very clearly evident from the story intervening to make it now, to make it in present, to tell you that it is not just the past but it is happening in the present also. Then how do we assess the moments of rebellion? What kind of power do these patriarchal structures continue to possess? I want you to bear this question in mind as we move on or progress with the story. So we'll stop here and we will continue in the next class. So thank you and keep safe.